As Russia's actions become more brutal and unpredictable in Ukraine, intelligence becomes central to understanding Putin's next moves. Rolf Mowatt-Larssen is former senior CIA operations officer and currently senior fellow at Harvard's Belfer Center. Rolf, welcome.
Nice to be here, Mimi. Thank you.
You spent a lot of your career in Moscow. Have Putin's actions surprised you?
Yes, I would say in spite of the fact that I served 2 tours there and made Russia kind of my life's work in CIA, I was surprised by 2 things, really. The almost crazy invasion he launched, which makes no strategic sense to me, and then the barbarity, even though I would expect him, based on the history in Chechnya and other places the Russian military has gone in, we should expect this. It's still shocking me, like I think for everyone, to see these disturbing images coming from Ukraine.
So what do you make of that, brutality? Is this about inexperienced soldiers going rogue, or do you think there were explicit orders from the top?
I don't think any of us should excuse one iota the war crimes that are being conducted in Ukraine by experience level or who ordered it. I don't think right now we know the answer to those questions, except we know it's happening and we need to resolve who's responsible. But ultimately it falls in Putin's hands because he's the person who sold this narrative, this ridiculous false claim that this is denazification, that people are taking as their inspiration, whether it's the Russian people who support him or the soldiers who are, or the commanders and then the soldiers they're ordering out to do this. And we can see the shelling, the indiscriminate shelling with our own eyes, shelling apartment buildings, shooting people on the streets. So everyone up the entire chain of command to Vladimir Putin should be held responsible for what's happening in Ukraine. This is not war. This is more genocide and, frankly, war crimes being committed in every engagement.
So, Rolf, at this point, what can you gather as to how good or how bad Russian intelligence is?
Well, it was a failure for Russian intelligence in the sense that we think of our intelligence failures in the United States, and that they failed to inform Putin of the likelihood of failure in the 2 ways that he's discovered it. One is that the Russian military is not as powerful as he thought it was. Modern, powerful, capable of quickly, which I expected. You asked me at the outset, what did I expect? I expected them to mount something of a very quick invasion that would take Kiev in a matter of days. Well, that didn't happen. So that's a failure for Russian intelligence. The second failure for Russian intelligence is, of course, the incredible resistance of the Ukrainian people. They don't want the Russians there. And I would say that that's kind of shocking, considering the Russians have been in force in intelligence terms in Ukraine for decades, since it was part of the Soviet Union. So to think that they could so spectacularly not understand that the people don't want them there and that this war ultimately will fail is a massive intelligence failure. He started a war he can't win.
You know, you've said that the risk of nuclear is not zero. Under what circumstances does Russia use a tactical nuclear weapon?
I think the most worrisome thing about nuclear weapons is that for decades now, we haven't really seriously considered that anyone being mad enough. We used to use that word term in the Cold War, mutually assured destruction, that they would be mad enough to use nuclear weapons, that they were there as some kind of deterrent. And Putin is using nuclear weapons as a deterrent. But when I said I don't think there's I think there's a non-zero chance they could be used, is I think we have to go back and reconsider everything we thought about the limits to which Vladimir Putin will go to try to win this war. And I don't think, for example, using a tactical nuclear weapon in Ukraine or against NATO to provoke a NATO defense using our Article 5 obligations should be off the table. And I'm sure that American planners in the Pentagon and the White House are at least preparing themselves for the possibility of that kind of a terrible escalation.
And Rolf, what about chemical or biological weapons? Would Putin have any moral qualms about using WMD?
I think we can take moral qualms off the table. Right? We can go back to his origins of his rise to power. He came to power in Russia in 1999 and immediately launched the Second Chechen War, which rubbled the capital Grozny and killed thousands of Chechens, brutally submitted them into Russian rule. That's his playbook. And so there were no moral qualms then about war crimes. The world didn't really see much of it. Now we're seeing with our own eyes how far he goes. But it's a reprise of that playbook. So yes, chemical weapons are definitely on the table. I think the West up to now, President Biden and other Western leaders have done a great job of ensuring Putin knows that's a game changer. I don't really know myself what that means, but I think Putin has to understand, whether he's using chemical, biological, or nuclear weapons, that it's a game changer of some kind, and it takes us into uncertain territory. We shouldn't be announcing in advance, by the way, what we will do, but we should ensure that Vladimir Putin understands that things that he is currently calculating, we are limits to which we're not willing to go, may have to be reset in the event that he escalates to WMD.
Rolf, who has influence over Putin in Russia? I mean, is it the oligarchs? Is it his security apparatus? Who is it?
Yeah, I'll simplify something that's probably a little more nuanced, and it's a little controversial the way I describe it, but I believe this for 20 years, so I'll express it now, because I think it's playing out this way. The oligarchs have no influence. And as Westerners, we have a hard time understanding a country. There are very few countries in the world like this that have really no political, even a country like Iran or some of these other countries, Egypt, that are authoritarian governments, have a kind of a democracy within the one-party state. Not in Russia. There's no real opposition. Anyone who opposes him is either liquidated or imprisoned. It's against the law, by the way, right now in Russia to say that Russia's in a war. So this shows you the extent to which he's willing to go to crush dissent, and he's always done that. So the only people I would say that have a significant influence on him are the people he depends on to remain in power. And those are three people, essentially. That is Alexander Bortnikov, the head of the Russian Security Service, FSB, probably the largest intelligence organization in the world. Second is Nikolai Patrushev, who's the former FSB director, who is also the head of the Security Council in Russia. And the third person is Shoigu, who's the Minister of Defense. So in the Russian system, they call that the special services. And those are the three people who control.
Well, Rolf, we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us.
I hope you enjoyed it. Yep.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any future Government Matters interviews.